Hey everyone, welcome to the Town Hall Roundup. I know it's a few days late, but for anyone who doesn't want to sit through the Twitch conversation that went on between Russ, the NGNG folks, Bombadil and Darren, or Phil, and Chris Lowry of the development staff, this was basically an overview of what happened, a few of my opinions thrown in, whether they're right or wrong, obviously let me know in the comments, and yeah, we'll just get straight onto it. So I'm using a Town Hall transcript that was posted by Nark on the Outreach HBG forums. You can find it there if you wish to double check any of the questions. I'll be reading some of their posts as well as anything I remember from it specifically as well. So the early part of it was mostly to do with the more recent changes to energy weapons. So the first question that came up was, how did you balance lasers? What telemetry did you use? And how did you notice a difference? Chris was saying, with an audit of energy weapons, monitored laser boats, got bullet points for the Insphere and clan balance and overall usability. Small pulse, standard, medium, and large pulse were outclassing other weapons in the energy lineup. Let's face it, there's not really a shock that the pulse weapons do better than the standard. That was kind of the point anyway, even back when they were first introduced. So this isn't really a big shock. Russ also adds that some people think we have rebalanced nerfs all the time. Some of our weapon systems haven't been tuned in years and years. Now, he specifically said this about the year 2014 was the last time that they did a rebalanced nerfing or buffing of weapons. So it gives you an idea of how long this has been the status quo regarding certain energy weapons. So if you've always been complaining about it for like the last year or so, yeah, it's because they haven't really bothered. Now, most of these energy weapon things, for me personally, any game like this always needs some kind of addressing, touching up, especially with the new weapons coming in. Going to need some kind of rework, so I don't really have a problem with them dinking around with stuff. Of course, if they make something way too overpowered or way too underpowered, then that naturally needs to be addressed quickly by the development staff. So the second question that came was like, didn't you forget to lower the heat for the clan small pulse? Chris answers this when he says, we make a balance change. We don't make it for the purpose of leaving it. We balance with internal target numbers and use rates with where we want the weapon to end up, keeping an eye on data and feedback. Yeah, a lot of it is Chris will go back to saying, oh, the metrics, the magic metrics, and apparently one of the things they do is they pull all the data from your stats page, every user account, and they look at the stats of weapons that are in use, how often by certain players, and what combinations, and all this kind of stuff. Apparently this is what's giving them this particular information. Now, clan small pulses, yeah, they've always been pretty effective. You only got to look at things like the Arctic Cheetah to see how powerful they can be, though I remember them a while back being deadly, and then there was I think there was a heat change because they did become a lot less effective because of the amount of overheating you do, but they were still powerful. So after that, there was any plan to change mechanics with LRMs so they can direct fire. Are MRMs going to be the de facto direct fire weapon? Chris says any large change has to be slotted into other things we're working on. We need time. Ammo value or velocity changes are quick, but mechanics are a bigger ask. Buffing LRMs would exacerbate problems for tier 4 and 5 players that they're currently seeing. Personally, I think LRMs, if you have line of sight, should direct fire. It kind of makes sense. There's no need for them to arc when they don't need to arc over anything. This is supposed to be the idea in LRMs. That's why you have a spotter, so you can indirect fire. It would factor into role warfare, whereas with light mechs or faster mechs being able to target, and the LRM mechs being able to basically stay behind cover and fire. Obviously, that's not something PGI really want to do. I also suspect with the question also involving MRMs is they are probably going to have MRMs work pretty much direct fire. And by that I mean as in they want the idea that your LRMs will be your arcing fire, your SRMs are your close range direct, and MRMs are going to be your kind of, direct fire but firing like LRMs in a stream or as big groups. So I don't think they want to mess around with it because they've already got it in place what MRMs are going to do. Next question, explaining changes would be helpful. Now, the transcriber here says NGNG ramble on. He puts the comment, no question was asked and the recent patch notes do explain things. They do, yeah, they're pretty straightforward. Russ says we have design notes, although sometimes we miss things, and Chris says if we miss something, I do try to stream with Phil on patch days to clear up confusion points. The transcriber does rightly say here, don't do that, make posts on MechWarriorMercs.com, that will be linked and discussed. I'm not watching NGNG for clarification. A fair point, and someone else brings up another fair point, and I really agree with this. why are they streaming these things? Why do town halls happen on NGNG? If you want to just get information out there and you want to answer questions direct from the community, we don't need these two middlemen. I know they're paid by the company to basically be that. That is their role, to be the stooges who take the soft questions so Russ can massage his ego every now and then. But if, say, I don't know, PGI had their own Twitch channel, maybe even just specifically for things like announcements of new modes, doing town hall discussions, talking to different staff members about what they've been working on recently, that would be a lot more helpful, and I think the community would be more likely to be involved in that, because I've always had an issue with two paid employees taking the questions and asking the questions, because why would they give him the difficult questions? Because it's not their job's worth to ask him that. Why would they want to piss off the boss, you know? Will Clan ER Large and Clan Large Pulse Lasers have Ghost Heat raised to 3 like the Inner Sphere ones? Russ says unlikely. Clan mechs are not at disadvantage. We're not all the way there to closing the Clan Inner Sphere power gap. Chris agrees with this, saying higher alpha values are probably not the way to go for Clan. We are not seeing clans lose out in the laser war. Personally, I don't really think the two tech levels should be balanced. And with less than a month to go now for new weapons anyway, including all of the same shit the clans had, you don't need to close the power gap. In fact, if people felt that the clans were underpowered in some respects now, imagine what it's going to be like when the Inner Sphere are running around with all of your clan tech, and then some, with rotary autocannons and heavy and light Gauss and all that coming in. And the clans, I think, are really going to lose out in this weapons war when it comes to the Civil War tech. Question, have recent balance changes been made with future tech in mind? Do PGI plan to address the low hardpoint numbers? An example is given as the Spider 5V. Chris answers first to say no to the recent balance changes being made with the future tech in mind. I think this is bullshit. With, again, the new tech literally a couple of weeks or a few weeks away, they're not patching weapons internally with the idea of the current with the new. If they're not, that seems somewhat short-sighted and is obviously going to cause problems. And if he's lying, why lie? I mean, would it be so hard to say, yes, these changes came in because the new tech we're testing has these values and we want to make sure that they balance and there's a reason to take them? I don't see the problem. As if we're trying to take a crack at the overall roles within the context of new tech, there's no roles in the game. Lights don't really get a chance to scout. Either the maps are too small, so you see the scouts from the other end of the map very early on, or there's just very obvious locations where, yes, the scouts could go wide on a map like Polar, and they could start scouting, but by then the death ball of the other team, who now outnumber you, just roll into the now split team, and it all goes to shit. So scouting is useless. Russ mentions that the Spider 5V is close to his heart. Oh yeah, that I assume that might be the last mech he ever played MechWarrior Online in. When the vast majority of mechs have a hardpoint threshold that original mechs don't have, he doesn't see a problem going back and bringing up older mechs with additional hardpoints. It's not that much work. Muses doing that a couple of mechs each patch. Of course, this will be one of the random things Russ throws out there that won't actually come to pass, as we all know. He said many things that, oh yeah, we'll do that next patch. A couple of patches down the road, and it's like 18 months later, and it goes, hey, we did it. Oh, thanks. No. With regards to adding extra hardpoints to older mechs, I don't really see the point, to be honest. You're really going to try and make something like the 5V viable when there's already other light mechs that are well established within, say, the competitive community? With the new skill system, you don't need to buy 3 variants of an existing mech anymore, so there's no real need to. You just find out what the best version of a spider is, and you run that, if you want to have the most optimal, efficient spider. I guess it's good for those who want to collect. I run the Spider 5V every now and then, and yeah, I mean, running it with stock weapons is very weak. It's a challenge. It's nice to run it as a scout, though. Actual fast mech that can run and spot and get people LRM locks and, you know, highlight the enemy positions. And if you're with people on comms, it works really well. And that is the Spider's role. Much like a few other lights in the game, really, they're not meant to fight. They're meant to spot and run. This went on for a bit. Basically, around about they do say, yeah, we'll end we'll probably end up adding more hard points. Although Chris does disagree with Russ on some of his points. They do have a bit of back and forth, but ultimately, does he really want to cross the boss? Answer, no. Next question is, iterative smaller nerfs, please. Don't bait and switch the buyers. Mentions the Battlemaster 2C, that's not clan, that's number 2C, with big structure buffs that recently were removed. Grasshopper 5p nerfs are coming up too. Chris then says, mechs have to be balanced across everything else available. With tonnage and chassis lines, the 5p was the strongest Grasshopper. The transcriber here, Nark, he says, because it has the most high mounts, so it was nerfed. The 5J got its armor increased. No mention of the Battlemaster 2C in that question, as you can see. They just specifically focused on the Grasshopper, which was the easy question. Now, yes, removing the Battlemaster 2C structure buffs. No idea why, personally. Yeah, so why did the 5p get its tankiness removed while adding a pay-to-play hero mech that has the same tankiness? Obviously insinuating that, hey, if you want that same great 5p flavour, then you gotta buy it in the new hero flavour. Chris denies this, saying we did not remove the tankiness, only to give it to a hero mech. He reiterates what he said above, which was they nerfed it because it was really powerful. Apparently. I don't know. Take from that what you will. Next question is, why were Black Knight quirks changed haphazardly in the last few months? Some people bought them because of the 15% range quirk. Now, Chris says 15% quirk was too high. Most Black Knights were too similar. Now, one variant has agility, one has structure. NGNG says, I feel like buying a mech for quirks is a no-brainer, i.e. bad decision. Russ then says, don't buy mechs based on balance in game. You're buying based on, here's the cosmetics, here's the hard points. Don't ever buy based on balance or quirks. Chris then finished off by saying, talking about the Black Knight 6 and the rebalance, we're trying to preserve quirks as best we can. As the transcriber comment says, tell that to my gridiron. Quirks are never a guarantee. Okay. So, from a customer standpoint, it feels shitty, because you buy the mech based on, this is what we're giving you. Oh, in the run-up to this release, here's the quirks. They show you these things. So they want you to have an idea of where it fits within the scheme against, rival mechs. And then they take it away. Now, in a game where they do want you to play competitive, we're coming up to a second World Championship tournament for a prize money pot, they are selling mechs, and they are trying to sell them not based on cosmetics, really. They're basing them on hard points, fan demand in some respects, things like the Mad Cat Mark II, the Urban Mech and that. And also, yeah, the quirks. And quirks are a big deal for a lot of people, as I said, especially in the competitive side of things, where they're making build choices kind of, around the hardpoint numbers and around the quirks. And if you start dicking with that, people are going to be pissed. And for them to basically say, only buy stuff based on the cosmetics and the hardpoints, but don't buy it on the balance or quick, I don't know. I don't like the way they phrased it. I can see it from their side, but I do sympathise with anyone who did give them money and now has a mech that doesn't play the way that they did when they first bought it. Next question is, why did you remove the quick draw IV4 armor quirks? Apparently that was a bug and that got fixed, so it has its armor quirks again. The next one was, recently posted Innisphere clan balance was closer than ever before. You said 8% difference. How do you internalise the data to come up with this comparison? Chris then says, we pull the data from the servers. I can see how good mechs are performing across multiple balance points. We can't get into any specifics. Yeah, that was a regular thing on this town hall. There was a lot of, we have all this data and we don't ever want to reveal it. We don't want to tell you how we do this. We have all these metrics, but we won't post up an infographic to give you an idea. Infographics, I've noticed, especially after betas for upcoming games, have done wonders for things like sales. Because people get this very, very well laid out, sometimes quite stylish looking graphic that shows you all of the mechs or all of the ships or all of the whatever. And they hype it. They say, look how cool this is. Look at all these people who played this and they used that and did this and blah, blah, blah. And if PGI were to do that, to show off what mechs were the most popular, what mechs were best with these weapons, what weapon got the most kills, I think that would encourage some people to drop some cash if they'd been looking for certain mechs and like, I don't know, I'm a bit on the fence. Well, you might make some money off that PGI. And you would appear to be a bit more transparent about the data you're collecting and how it's affecting your balance changes. As the next question, would you care to explain why you don't have a PTS with lasers and roll it out untested? Why not PTS all the time? Why are you so afraid? This was an interesting one. Russ answered this question. He said, it takes effort, which, as we know, minimum viable product. We use it for larger items that are QA heavy. Sometimes the server is running internal builds that they use. Civil War Tech goes public for PTS within the next week. And the first time we've had new weapons and moved the timeline since Clantech 2 years ago, took an engineer a week to do stealth armor. Okay. Another piece of information there was he said that they were already testing Civil War Tech internally and with some outside sources. Someone referred to this as the Super Squirrel Squad as their testers. So we know externally there are people out there who have been or are still running the Civil War Tech, whoever they may be. It's interesting to know that the PTS server is being used for these kind of things. It's slightly galling that they couldn't have just got some early feedback. Maybe let some people in groups. Maybe, people who are more active on the forums. So, hey, you get a, do you want to test out the new thing? Maybe get some positivity back from some good feedback. But no. The silver lining to it, of course, is that we will have a PTS for the new tech coming up. Possibly the new mechs as well, though they didn't confirm that. People were asking and no one decided. Henji didn't want to field that question. Let's see. Are there any plans to simplify the skill tree based on feedback? The short answer to this from Russ was no. We really like it how it is, and we'll try and fix it a bit here and there, but no. Any plans to improve the UI, such as being able to copy and paste or click and draw on the skill tree? Russ gave a very long, meandering answer to this, which was something to the effect of, ooh, that's a nice idea, that would be really good, UI budget, yeah, maybe, not quite sure. Question, will you bump Ultra AC Jam Chance to -10% at each, or change the values in other nodes? How about having specific trees for dumpier mechs? I liked where this idea was coming from, that certain mechs, like maybe every mech would have its own version of the nodes within the tree, but then again, I don't know, it'd probably be very difficult. I think my idea could work with some work, sort of to flesh it out a bit more. But Russ's answer was, a time will come when they will, but it may come with a node refund, which is complex and messy. Tons of free-to-play games refund your skill points after they make a change. Marvel Hero does it like every fucking week. Basically, oh, you've got this character? Yeah, redo all his stats because we changed something on a skill, and we're just going to let you have all the points back. Or at least they used to do that. I don't think they have the points anymore, but I remember that quite regularly. Or they would change something, they'd be like, yeah, we changed the build, so you might have to reassign your skills. I don't think it's that difficult, but then this could be a CryEngine issue. Chris says, if a mech needs a boost, they'll hit the base value, and then Russ finishes that one off with, we're seeing trees with multiple paths of success. Yes. Whatever the fuck that means. Again, you could show these trees. Any plans to introduce Innisphere Omnimex? I personally took umbrage with the answer for this one. As Russ says, not now. I mean, this is the transcribers one. Not now, but it will happen unlikely this year. 2017 map already planned out. Some of the other stuff he said was, I'm not sure when Omnimex for the Innisphere came in. I'm sure some of you guys would know. Russ, you're heading up a company that is supposed to be is licensing MechWarrior. You're making money off the MechWarrior franchise, which is based on BattleTech. It's not that hard to do your homework, Russ. Especially with regards to adding mechs for your mech packs, which causes people to break out into song every time a mech pack's mentioned. Mech pack. So the fact that he couldn't apparently just name a few or give an idea, because there is a thing called Sana. And it's very, very clearly states when certain Omnimex are available. Most of them around about the 3050s upward to about 3060. There are some later ones after the Jihad. They're pretty much all before the 3062 timeline. So, yeah, for me it was just further proof that Russ doesn't know fucking BattleTech if it randomly kicked him in the nuts. He knows a bit of MechWarrior, and that's about it. Question, can we expect further changes to faction play? Will Wolf in Exile be introduced? Will Smoke Jaguar be removed? Cool thing about this, did like this answer, apparently the map will change. It will no longer be the 4 clans invading and trying to capture Terra. It will instead be basically a shift with the map's boundaries, so we can assume that we'll have the Ghost Bear Dominion, we will have some kind of redrawn Jade Falcon and Clan Wolf start points, and we will have Operation Bulldog and the drive up to the clan homeworlds, which would be pretty cool. They also mentioned that you will be able to kind of pledge allegiance to other clan factions, so you can have your Fire Mandrels and your Steel Vipers and your Diamond Sharks and all that, but they're aligned with one of the major clan factions from Faction Warfare, so I guess Steel Vipers are with Jade Falcon, maybe? I don't know. Maybe Nova Cat would be linked to Smoke Jaguar. It's hard to tell. But anything that allows you to actually be able to say, I am part of this clan, which I know a lot of clan players would be very happy with. Will there be any new Innisphere versus clan and Innisphere versus Innisphere events? Yes, although they're saving any details about that for a future roundtable, specifically about Faction Warfare. But basically, I remember Russ mentioning that there would be some kind of FedCom Civil War event, possibly, and things like attacking the clan homeworlds, and that would be part of these events. Next question was, why did you ban Champion and Hero Mechs from the comp queue? What was funny was Russ answered this by saying, like, but you asked us to do that, and everyone in chat went, no, we fucking didn't. We did not ask you to ban, say, the Invasion variant of the Timberwolf Prime. We didn't ask you to ban the G variant, the V variant, all these special ones. Apparently they're all banned, including heroes. Apparently NGNG fucked up how the question was asked anyway, but no, people weren't happy with that, and I think they're going to change that decision. Another one was, why ban the Timberwolf Invasion but allow the normal Timberwolf Prime? If the mech is available for C-Bills, why not allow it? Russ says, we can turn those on, not insurmountable, guess we'll have to do it. Yeah. People are having to spend C-Bills on buying Timberwolf Prime, even if they own the Prime Invasion variant. Yeah, slow clap there, guys. Well done. Not the players, I mean PGI. So in the last Town Hall, you said you'd move the OC server to the OC region for ranked mode. Russ answered this by saying it's in Singapore. And they want to move it to a better place within that region. Maybe Australia's getting its own server, but he doesn't want to add a fourth region because the buckets, people. Forget about it from a matchmaking perspective, so basically no, he doesn't want to do a fourth region. Mentions that an East Australian server might help. Russ, I discussed this with Davros, this question specifically, and he brought up a very good point. Russ clearly still wants to try and make some of that sweet South Korean comp gaming money by having the server in Singapore. It ain't fucking happening, Russ. South Korea have already they're attached to their fucking games. They've got StarCraft, they've got Overwatch, they've got however many fucking comp games they're already playing. Metro Online is not big enough to become a major competitive esport in that country. There are more people in Australia who are suffering under really bad connections sometimes in that region. Just move the fucking server to Australia, or at least move it closer to Australia, because it's bollocks. It's bollocks, Russ. Details about the World Championship for this year. Russ says that the site will be up. We could have divisions to split up the leaderboard to get more people in. He mentioned they will not be putting up a $100,000 seed like last time, which he said was a nightmare for international teams. This was because of prizes, sponsors, taxes, conversion rates and all that shite. The rumour was, I think he said it was somewhere going to be maybe like 50 to 40k as a prize seed, and that basically the money that you put in to buy the pack will bump up that amount. So basically pay for your own prize pool, folks, or at least a chunk of it. New maps. Why aren't map boundaries and spawn points in existing maps changed to switch it up? Russ's answer to that, there are a couple being worked on. That's it. There's no map news. So if you've been hoping for more maps, soon, trademark, I guess. I believe later on there was also a question like, will you have a selectable spawn point? But I think this was for Faction Warfare. So there you go. Any chance we can get the old maps back into circulation? Russ says, not impossible, but it takes a little more work. Rather create new maps. Ooh. Yeah, I don't see why the old maps couldn't be added. I don't think people will give a shit whether the fidelity visually of them isn't as good as, say, the original Forest over the new Forest. I just think people would like to be able to play the old maps, because it's a bit more variety. It'd be great for the lobbies. It would be great for the quick play queue. It might even possibly help, maybe, I don't know, the old Alpine or something for... sorry, not the old Alpine. The old, like, Frozen City, those kind of things for some of the other, like, faction warfare modes. I don't know. But I don't see why it'd be so difficult to just add them back in. It's not a big deal. You don't have to add incursion and escort and that to them. You can just keep them as the classic 3 modes, conquest and skirmish and assault. Can we have urban maps that tower over mechs like in MechWarrior 4? Russ says he's worried it wouldn't look as good. Yeah, I'm going to let that sink in. He's scared and mentions original River City took forever and the question is looking for density perspective. Yeah, so basically the answer is I don't want to do a big urban map because it won't look as pretty. Fuck the fact that previous MechWarrior games have had huge city areas. I remember a level inside MechWarrior 2, which was pretty much entirely inside the city. Inside a dome city. It was fucking cool. We're, like, using the buildings for cover and creeping about and, you know, trying to stay hidden and popping out for shots. And that was against the AI. Imagine what that kind of gameplay would be like for multiplayer. That'd be sweet. Plus, some mechs would become more powerful in an urban map. You know, when you restrict that range advantage some mechs have gotten, it becomes a much closer... nastier brawl. That would be sweet. But we're never going to see it because he doesn't like the idea of having really tall buildings with all the mechs looking smaller next to them. Are we going to get a new social lobby? Something like MSN Gaming Zone. Totally gutting out the social lobby and doing something else is difficult. Floating chat is an example of incremental improvement. Changing things drastically isn't feasible. Who thought MechWarrior would be going 6 years strong when we started development? I don't know if that's the cynic in me, but the fact that he says, I mean, I could phrase it like this. Who would have thought we'd be going 6 years strong when we started development? Or, who would have thought we'd still be going 6 years strong when we started development? I don't know. Either way, the way he said that seems like he had little confidence in the project going forward, and now he's just kind of like, holy shit, we're winging this. It doesn't come out, I don't know, very well. I don't know. I'm sure some people will defend it, as there are people out there who still vehemently defend them, and I assume they're newer players, or at least they haven't become as bitter and jaded as myself. How about the group menu? You have to click social tab, click ready, then it's not persistent. How about one click ready? Russ answers this with the word sounds wonderful. That almost comes across as a kind of shut the fuck up, NGNG. What is PGI's focus and direction for MechWarrior Online? Is it esports or is it faction play? Russ says, question insinuates we're in too many directions and should be more focused. Answer, MWO is a PvP MechWarrior experience designed to be the first of its kind in the MechWarrior universe. Except for all that MechWarrior 4 multiplayer that was really popular. Oh, and Living Legends. Group comp 4v4 scouting. Faction play. We're giving people as many ways as possible to experience MechWarrior combat in a PvP experience. 999, Mac pack. It feels like they're going esports. It's felt like they've been going esports for a while. Faction warfare is something that could be good, but they don't have the time or the resources to really want to make it a fully fleshed out proper mode that people should be going into naturally, with the quick play queue being your kind of training ground and getting used to how your mech builds work, and then you go into faction play. Faction play still feels like a weird afterthought. And the esports side of it, especially now with the addition of a comp mode and the second year of World Tournament and all this, does seem to give an impression, Russ, that you do want to push the game more toward that side of things and less toward it being a kind of just like a team-based game. Gravity on maps, we're not playing with gravity. Okay, whatever. I'd love to see mech physics in the game, like mechs falling over and knockdowns. Any thoughts? Russ says improvements to the warping and poppy and rubber banding kind of stuff is more of a priority. When will we see the Piranha mech? He will touch on this later. For new players, any plans to make the game more accessible? NGNG feels this one by saying, we're working on a wiki. Yep, that's right, folks. 6 years in, we don't have a working wiki that's regularly updated. Not one by PGI, not one by NGNG. The guys fucking paid to be mouthpieces of the fucking game. They can't get a wiki up. Plus, hey, like, if NGNG want to use the fucking Lore Warriors I made for their wiki thing to give you some background on the mechs that you're asking people to spend real money on sometimes, more than happy for you to fucking link them. Can we get small and medium laser max range restored to double? Chris answered this by saying, we're testing new tech as is. Pulse lasers are a much bigger ask because of how boosted the clan versions are compared to Inner Sphere. Well, the clans should have better tech. That's the fucking point in them. If they're just, like, equal, what's the point? Question, dual cool shot and airstrike builds seem quite annoying. Are they looking at them? Chris says, under my radar, we might need more nodes if we reduce them, which we don't want to do. We'll probably see node value adjustments. So, what? An adjustment that goes, you get one node to no node? You get no, like no extra airstrikes? No airstrike. This is an airstrike node that has no airstrikes. Is MechWarrior 5 still coming? Yes. I think that was a silly question. I don't. That's NGNG just going, hey, here's a softball for you, Russ. Yeah, of course, MechWarrior 5's coming. And everything's going to be held back till MechCon. That's not a shock. Will Ultra AC Jam chance reduction nodes ever be useful? They're looking into it. The social tab, can it update when people leave the game? Russ says, no idea. That was his answer, basically. I have no idea. I have no idea. No, I don't know. And the transcriber rightly says, do you not play the game? Yeah, Russ, it's not that difficult. Do you not just play internally with a group of other people when you'd like titting around with something just to see how it works? Or if someone drops out or whatever, it should tell you this. Jump jet buffs, animation hit reg concerns beyond what he can do himself. That was Chris answering that one. Can we have events update at the top of the hour and not 10 minutes after? Russ says, I don't know anything about this. Again, transcriber comment, do you not play the game? This is one of the reasons people hate faction warfare and see it as pointless, because if the events don't fucking update at the top of the hour, or the actual events on the website don't update at the top of the hour, what's the point sometimes? You don't know where you stand. Russ, you love the dragon. Any word on the Grand Dragon? Russ says, no word on the Grand Dragon. He probably doesn't even know. People, stop asking him about battle mechs. He doesn't know what they are. You ask him about a mech, and he'll probably be fucking frantically thumbing through a fucking notebook or something, or like going online trying to find out what the fuck they're asking him about, because he doesn't know. I asked this cunt in chat whether he has cracked the spine on his TRO 3025. He probably wouldn't even know what that was. What's a TRO 3025? Good God, people, don't ask him questions about battle mechs. He doesn't know. He hasn't got a fucking clue. He just gets, somebody turns up and like shows him pictures and he claps because that's the only thing he fucking understands, clearly. Why is the Timberwolf nerfed mobility-wise? Chris answers, we can look at it if we need, and we feel the Timberwolf needs a boost. It has negative attributes because we're removing them would provide a boost. We're not convinced it doesn't need. If it gets to the point of the Cataphractor Awesome, we'll look into removing it. So, basically, yeah, we fucked it. If it gets as bad as a Cataphractor Awesome, we'll look into it. Firstly, how dare you attack the Awesome? With that throwaway comment. The Awesome is glorious. And it's like, why nerf it in the first place? Why nerf the mobility of the Timberwolf? It is quite an agile mech. It's a very mobile, heavy mech. Eesh. Any better incentive or rewards for playing objectives and match scores and C-balls? Russ says, I'd be in favour of shifting earnings to objectives. He'd be in favour, like he has to vote. Like this is some kind of fucking election that comes up. Like, oh yes, yeah, I'm running here to push for better rewards in match scores and objectives and C-bills. Let's incentivise people, and the rest of the office like, boo, fuck that, no, I'm not voting for that. What the fuck? He's in charge. Just alter the fucking values. Make it so scouting and spotting targets and stuff like that is actually worthwhile doing. And don't. So it isn't so much about killing shit and doing damage, and it's more about a sort of generalized role warfare. Russ, all of this is in your power. You can do this. Any comments on how ATMs work? And by that we don't mean the whales that they just hit the fucking front of their chests on and they spit money for mech packs. We mean the advanced tactical missiles for the clans in the Civil War update. And the response to this, no response about in-dev stuff until the PTS is out. Fair enough. I guess everyone will figure it out when that arrives. Russ just says, we'd be talking for another hour about this. Really? About the advanced tactical missile system that when it arrives you won't actually be able to switch ammo types, which is how ATMs are supposed to work, but you can't do it for LBXs, you can't do it for Clan Ultra ACs anyway, so yeah, ATMs are just going to work based on how far a target is from you. It's a streamlined change, I'll give them that. But you can talk an hour about your streamlined change, Russ? Really? Or is it more like a meandering pile of steaming bullshit to try and explain how you don't know how to do it properly, and you've just come up with this solution? And to top it all off, the pied de résistance, the end of it all. Okay, I will read this verbatim. Solaris 1v1Q, that's the question. Russ, no mech pack plans today. Piranha mech will come beyond escalation mech packs. Now, there's no mech pack being announced, but the Piranha is coming after the escalation mech pack. No mech pack announcement, but there is a Piranha battle mech coming. Okay. Solaris is interesting. Solaris is a rich idea that could be a game in and of itself. We had a finished design several months ago, but I was contemplating this question. In a way, it's just another mode. 1v1 mode. This wouldn't be done in the same way as faction play or other features. Maybe put it out in 3 or 4 months and then improve it every 3 to 4 months. I'd want the initial version of Solaris to feel very complete. So that means it would be a much more feature-heavy product from the get-go. This would probably be first half of 2018 to get a really great, legit... We've been working on the lore and the canon. We wouldn't want this to feel like it's just another aspect of Mech Online, like a 1v1 queue. We're fine-tuning the design, but I'm wondering if instead of doing a mech pack pre-order, we have a Solaris pre-order type thing. I'm going to leave that for you guys to chew on. It'll be its own independent experience within Mech Online. We're talking about pre-ordering a new mode. We've toyed very strongly with the idea of Mech Geometry Edition system within Solaris. Think decals, but with your own personal geometry, Mech Shield or whatever. We've been very good with pre-orders, and I wonder if you guys would be interested in something other than a mech pack. And if I was to do something like this, it would be somewhat quickly, maybe by August. Pre-order page would have a lot more details, like a mech pack. I'll leave you with that. So yeah. So the grand finale. Hey guys, do you want to pre-order a game mode? Are you fucking shitting me? This isn't Battlefield. This isn't buy the fucking season pass and get this other game type with the Russians, and they had that in Battlefield 1. Or any other fucking bought $60, 40 quid, 40 to 50 euro product. No. This is a free-to-play game. You want to fucking pre-order a game type. One that people have been asking for a very long time. That is still playable in MechWarrior 4. It's not even going to be team-based. It's going to be 1v1, apparently. You're not going to have a free-for-all of 24, 12, even 8 mechs. No, it's going to be 1v1 with a shitty tacked-on fucking geometric detail thing, which, by the way, they mentioned that years ago. The Atlas head concept art is probably still floating around of the supposed geometry system that they were going to bring in as a microtransaction thing, where you could alter the appearance of some of your mechs for public play. This was before community warfare was ever a thing. And now they want to retrofit that into Solaris to give you just visual tat. And making you, or at least trying to basically say, if you want it, come and buy it. For fucking what? No! Don't pre-order game types. This is as dumb as pre-ordering a map pack. You're going to split the community into the haves and have-nots. Even if Solaris ends up becoming something later on that's free, like all the other things, how does that work? What exactly are you pre-ordering from this map pack? Is it just, here's a bunch of geometry editions? Some decals and a warhorn? What do you pre-order exactly? What's his thinking with this? A bunch of skins? A specific mechs? That are only usable in Solaris? Where is he coming from with this? And why? Wouldn't it just be smarter to add this mode and then, monetize it in a different way? with the things like the decals, as he likes to call them, or the geometry thing and all the rest of it. You know, get everybody playing it who wants to play it, because Solaris is pretty popular within both the MechWarrior and the BattleTech community. It's a really interesting section. It's basically like the Colosseum of Rome of BattleTech. It's mental. I don't know why he thinks this is a good idea, that he thinks everyone's going to be so positive about this. Leaving people to chew upon it? Alright, here's the other problem. This was on NGNG. Not everyone in the community will watch NGNG, especially for 4 hours to get this many questions done. They don't tell you any of this on the forums. There's no official transcript that they post up. So a lot of people will play the game and have no idea that these things were discussed. And it's not like the community manager, Tina, is going to let anyone know about that. No community link that I can see on the website currently. As I said, some way of transcribing it would be fantastic. I mean, maybe pay the NGNG guys to do that for you. Since it's on their channel, maybe they could do that. So a lot of this stuff is, like, for a lot of people, if this happens, this game mode idea, it's going to splat onto the front page, and there's going to be loads of people who have no fucking idea that this was ever a plan. And that you're just going to get a lot of angry people going, where the fuck are the maps? Why the fuck haven't you fixed this, but you want us to buy a game type? This is so dumb. It's really stupid. It's a terrible idea for many reasons, and despite the fact that once all of this is blown over, if it happens, and people like go, oh, actually, Solaris is quite good, it won't remove the fact that you will once again have a group of people who will always remember that you shafted people for real money for a game type. And again, it's this fucking sliding slope, once again, that I feared would happen after the Roughneck, and I'm so glad I'm wrong, that they would start adding in their own mechs. If they get a game type that people will actually give them fucking money for, who knows what else they're going to start pre-order packing for. I implore everybody who listens to this, if this appears on the page, don't buy it. Please don't buy it. Do not give them money for a game type. Mechs, that's fine. It's the main selling point of the game. Mech packs are how they make most of the money. They should not be making any money off game modes. They really shouldn't. Unless the game mode was planet-side style warfare for faction play. That maybe, if they could do it. But they won't anyway, so that's why I can throw it out there as a, oh, you should definitely buy it that way, because they're never going to do it. But this? No. Solaris should just be a mode that is added. The structure is already there for them to add it anytime they fucking want, in a couple of months if they wanted to do it. It's a few small arena-based maps that don't have to make any real logical sense, that players spawn into, and they shoot the crap out of each other. It's what they've been doing for 6 years now, lobby shooting. You're telling me that apparently they have to get funding before they decide to come up with a few small maps to stick 8 players, maybe less, maybe more, to either fight in teams or to have a free-for-all in? Seriously. No. It's ridiculous. And the joke that they've been looking at the lore and the canon of it, you won't see a single solitary drop of any kind of lore or canon for this supposed Solaris mode. It'll just be a bunch of probably very pretty looking maps, and that'll be it. Maybe they'll go out and they'll have an announcer. Maybe they can get Duncan Fisher. Maybe. But I wouldn't hope for that. I wouldn't expect it from them, personally. Some of the stuff in there is fine. I'm looking forward to the PTS changes. I'm looking forward to testing out the PTS stuff. I will do videos of the PTS stuff. Especially if they add the new mechs, it will actually be a good way of me being able to do some gameplay videos of the new mechs. However, a majority of it is the usual. It's empty promises, vague wishy-washy maybe in the futures, and mad fucking idea at the end. I've rambled on enough about this, so I'm going to leave it there. Thanks for listening, everybody. Let us know what you think below in the comments. Love it, hate it, whatever. We'll discuss it then. So have a good one, and see you. Bye.